Thank you to our channel sponsors, Jet.Build. If you're looking for ways to better manage your real estate development and construction projects, look no further. Jet is the command center software for end-to-end real estate development and construction management. That's www.jet.build. Brad, welcome to the show, man.
Hey, I'm glad to be here, man. Thanks for the invite.
Absolutely. Yeah. Thank you for joining us. Really excited to hear your story and share it. Before we get started, where are you calling in from? Where's home base?
Calling in from Columbus, Ohio today. Home base is kind of in 5 different states lately, but I'm actually at my home sleeping in my own bed this week.
Yeah, I'm glad to hear that. Last question, we just started, had a nice chuckle before we hit record, given your scenario. If your kids approach you and tell you they want to join the military, what's your reaction? What do you do? What do you say?
Now, me and my wife have 2 completely different opinions of what would happen. I've got 3 young daughters. I've got 2 that are actually thinking about joining the service now. One that wants to get in dental school, and she's thinking about using the service in the military to help her through her med school and help her through the dental school. Mm-hmm. I've got another one whose dream is to be an agent in the FBI or the CIA, currently in criminal justice. She wants to serve because she's wanting to move up in ranks, get top secret clearance. She's a young lady who wants to be on the front lines. So I'm very supportive. So those 2 are both looking at going to the service. I'm supportive of both of them. They're for 2 totally different reasons. I'd like to see where it takes them.
That's awesome, man. That's awesome. Thanks for sharing that. So before we kick off, I'll just read off your formal introduction. Brad Richey served as a crew chief on B-52 bombers in the United States Air Force from 1997 to 2001. A proud crew dog, he loved the hands-on work of keeping the aircraft mission ready. Brad separated from the service in August 2001 with paperwork finalized on September 11, 2001. Brad left to pursue education, and marriage, but often reflects that he might have reenlisted if circumstances were different. Above all, Brad misses the camaraderie and brotherhood of his fellow airmen, which left a lasting impact on his life. Brad has been with Turner Construction since 2004, serving as vice president and construction executive. Brad focuses on leading teams, ensuring client satisfaction, and delivering large-scale projects, including a multi-billion-dollar data center program spanning 5 states. I think that might be why you said you lived in a few places right now. A dedicated servant leader, Brad emphasizes active caring and team building. Brad supports a workforce of 350 professional staff and 3,000 to 4,500 field craft across multiple locations, fostering trust and loyalty among clients and colleagues. Brad's past roles include VP of a $2 billion data center, Director of Self-Perform Operations, Director of Special Projects, growing revenue from $10 million to $50 million, as well as a project manager and general superintendent. Brad is known for inspiring energy, creativity, and reliable outcomes. And I'm really excited to expand on all of these, learn your life experiences and stories. Let's start off with childhood, where you grew up and what childhood was like for you.
Yeah, I'm gonna take you off script just a sec. I'm gonna jump ahead in time, right? So I want to tell a story today. One of the reasons I agreed to do this and talk about it was I've kind of got a unique story of failure, right? There's very few people that get out of the college career their first time around with a really bad GPA, told not to come back, join the military, leave the military, go back and become a vice president of the largest construction company in the country, running their largest program right now. So it's been a trial and error in the history of failures. A lot of events in my life that I have self-induced. I can't blame any of it on anybody. It's usually always been me. But it's a story of humility. It's a story of leadership. It's a story of building trust and ultimately achieving results. So, yeah, we'll start back at that childhood. So I grew up in a moderate hometown in western Kentucky. Mom and dad weren't rich, weren't poor. I was a farm boy. Grew up doing tobacco and hauling hay and driving tractors and all the things a young boy could do out on many, many acres without a lot of close neighbors. My closest neighbor was a few miles away, 10, 11 years old. I'd hop on a four-wheeler and ride 10 or 11 miles. I would see mom several hours later, and she would never ask a question about where I've been. Talk about my 3 girls, if they were gone for several hours today, I'd be pinging their phones and calling them and trying to figure out what
it's different times.
My, how times have changed. Yeah, so grew up as a farm boy. As a young kid, I always knew I wanted to be in construction. Worked for a friend of my dad, building houses, loved construction. Danny Love was the guy's name. He had a residential business called Love Construction. I started out on his framing crew at 16. 18 years old, he had me in charge of his finishing crew. Now, mind you, I didn't know anything at all about finishing, right? That's where leadership steps in. I'm surrounded myself with guys that knew about leadership or knew about finishing. And he had me hold them accountable to do different things. They taught me how to do handrails and really nice finish work and cabinetry work. And I learned a lot of really cool hands-on skills with that group.
Yeah, those are some awesome skill sets. Was there something in childhood in particular, or a few things that kind of geared you towards service that had you start thinking about service?
But my family, so every one of my uncles served in something. Let me rephrase that. Every one of my uncles served in one of the branches except for the Coasties. No lonely Coasties in our family. But every other branch, they all served in one branch or the other. My dad was in the Navy, had an uncle in the Army, the Navy, and Marines. So it was Air Force was my mom's twin brother. So I've known about the service my whole life. I've always been exposed to it, but it was never anything I was pushed to. All of my uncles and my father all kind of pushed me away from going to service. Brad, go get a college education. You get any college education, that's how you're going to thrive.
Yeah.
I left the residential construction company. I went actually go build a golf course. So my second job through high school was working in heavy equipment operator. So I was sitting on a scraper before I had graduated high school, getting pushed across the hill trying to plane out this golf course. And nobody taught me that those damn things don't have brakes. So at least the one I was on didn't have brakes. And if you don't know how to stop one, which I didn't at the time, you drop the pan. So as I'm flying down this hill, and I might have only been going 2 miles an hour, but I mean, it's a 17, 18-year-old kid. I was terrified. I might have wet myself that day. I didn't know what to do as I'm going down and speeding up and accelerating toward a ditch. And somehow, by the grace of God, I don't know if my knee hit it or if I accidentally hit it, I dropped the pan and it stopped me. But that was my introduction to construction, was both residential and moving dirt. I wouldn't call it heavy industrial. It was a small outfit, but it was. So I've been exposed to construction my whole life. I've been exposed to the military my whole life. It's kind of a good trade.
Man, whoever gave you the keys to that should have given you the tutorial of how to brake, how to stop.
Yeah. Safety were different than what they are today.
Sure. So, at what age did you enlist?
So actually, I graduated high school, joined the University of Kentucky. Went to school at University of Kentucky. So I was 20 when I enlisted. I went to school for 2 full semesters. I had a 0.8 GPA after the end of my first year. I did a lot of things that I learned a lot about, but none of them were studying. Right. Bless my wife's heart. The only good thing that happened to me that first year was I met my bride. My wife, we're still together. The 3 young girls that she's blessed me with, we're still together. Thank goodness that she stuck with me through all of the ups and downs and the peaks and valleys we went through. So I remember sitting in my front yard after my first year with my mother, having a conversation with Mom. Mom, I want to go back. I'll do better this time. And she told me, she said, son, I've never had a vacation like you just had. And you're not going back. And I remember we were sitting on a flower bed that I had built her before I went off to school. And I'm crying. I've got my hands in my eyes, and I'm doing the big sob story. Woe is me. Like it's all everybody else's fault. And the reality is I wasn't mature enough to do it. And I said, fine, I'll just join the service. And literally that next day I went to MEPS. And I was a state swimmer. I was a good swimmer. I loved distance swimming, and I went quite the adrenaline junkie. That hasn't changed. Loved being an adrenaline junkie. So I decided I want to go be a PJ. So I'm going to join Special Forces, and I'm going to go to the Air Force, and I'm going to be a PJ, and it's going to be a walk in the park. Back to that maturity thing. I wasn't mature enough to know what decisions I was making.
It's interesting that you even knew about PJs at that time. Like, what was exposing you to that?
I don't. I was being an adrenaline junkie. I was always checking out the special forces.
Hmm.
I thought I might want to be a forest ranger one day because they go out mountain climbing and hiking. If I was going to join the military, I'd want to go in special forces. Uh, Navy SEALs sound cool, but I really just want to be in the water. Like the ultimate equalizer is getting into a wrestling match or a battle in the water, and I felt very confident about my water skills. So I was like, "Yeah, this sounds kind of cool. Let's go try it."
So walk us through that process. You went to a recruiter, signed up. How's that go for you?
Went to a recruiter, signed up, and I believe my mother will tell you it was the next day. I think it was about a week later. They actually had an opening at MEPS. They sent me in for my physical. All the paperwork was done. It was less than 2 weeks after I signed the paper. I was on a plane headed down to Lackland Air Force Base for basic training.
Awesome.
It was quick.
Mm-hmm. Well,
Yeah, so
walk us through that process. If there's any kind of memories that stick out.
There's no real memories that stick out of the signing up. I remember once I got to the airport and I was waiting to go to the airplane. Everybody kept telling me different things that you got to look out for. None of us knew, right? I'm sitting in an airport lobby with a bunch of individuals that are going to basic for the first time. We're all telling stories like we know what's about to happen, but we're all clueless. I remember loading up on a bus, and the bus driver was pretty cool. What I thought was a drill sergeant at the time on the bus was really cool. Everybody was chit-chatting. We were having a good time. I'm like, man, this is going to be a walk in the park. This is going to be simple. And then I remember us stopping at Lackland, getting off the bus, and then we met the drill sergeants. Right? We all get off, and we got our backpacks, and we all think we're going to be going somewhere and staying in a hotel or what. I don't remember what was going through my mind. But I had this guy, and I'm 6'1". I'm not a short dude. I think the biggest guys there pick out the biggest guys there. I had this guy had to been 6'7". He had to be 300 pounds of solid rock, standing right there, staring me in the eyes. Like, not a whole lot of people looked down on me. I was intimidated as I could be. We all stood in line, all of our garbage everywhere. They were doing bag checks and emptying bags. And for the next hour, we were doing push-ups and getting up and getting yelled at, and somebody would do something. They probably didn't do anything wrong, but a drill sergeant said they did, so we dropped and did more push-ups. That was my introduction. Then we went into our barracks. We got into our elements, and it was really kind of neat to me to see how, now mind you, I grew up in Western Kentucky. Mm-hmm. I didn't have a lot of multicultural people around me at all where I grew up in my little small town. We talk a lot on the job site about active caring and taking care of people, and we talk a lot about just in general all the things that went on in 2020 with the racism and just the strife in America. Mm-hmm. And I had a lot of really good friends that asked me, Brad, what makes you react different? And I did. As a leader, I was pulling people aside, asking questions, and trying to learn. Like, really, in the military, it was a forced marriage. Like, I was there with everybody. We all had our heads shaved. We were all in the same uniform. We were all treated the same. There was no discrimination. You were all treated like crap. And you all had the equal opportunity to grow from that and learn from that. I made some of my best friends in my A school on the way out, tech school with the Air Force, but going through the same thing, that we were all in it together. We were very equal and treated as equals. It was pretty cool. It was a life-changing event for me starting out day one at basic training.
Mm-hmm. Well said. So going through basic training, was there a specific point where you understood kind of your track for service, presuming you didn't have it going into basic training?
Well, actually, they of course, I committed to it and checked the box and said, yeah, I'm going to go be a special force guy, right? And everybody was gung-ho and telling you how easy that's going to be, and we'll get you right in, like, right? They're making promises to get you in. Mm-hmm. I got down, I went to the training, there's a test we had to do. I did all the swim, I did all the physical requirements. I was in pretty good shape. I did push-ups, sit-ups, all the things we need to do, passed the physical part with flying colors. and then they send you back to MEPS and redo a medical exam, right? So I was blind in both eyes, 20 over 200 in both eyes. MEPS knew that before they accepted me the first time around. They knew that before they let me go through the physical training, and they knew that when they got me back the second time and said, you can't go into special forces because you're blind. I said, hey, can I go have corrected vision? And at the time, they wouldn't allow corrected vision either. At least that's what they told me, right? And I didn't know enough to ask questions about switching to the Coast Guard, where I could have been a rescue diver, or like there's a lot of other things I could have done to pursue what I wanted to pursue. But I didn't know. So they gave me two options. Do you want to go well, go ahead.
So I was going to say, even today, like navigating that scenario is not easy, right? Like you really got to either probe or have someone tell you, how to navigate, how to direct to, an expertise that's interesting to you, right?
You really got to have a coach, and that's with everything in life. It doesn't matter whether it's going in the military. It doesn't matter if it's trying to get a promotion in a commercial construction business. It doesn't matter if you're going to go buy a first house, right? We all need to find coaches and be humble enough to ask questions about what to do next. I wasn't smart enough or mature enough to do that.
Nah, I mean, in your position, that's really tough for, you're taking direction, right? You think you're talking to what would be a coaching kind of a position in the recruiter and, whoever you're engaging with in that process. So that's why I bring it up is you really got to extend yourself to understand the system.
Yeah. So then they gave me two offers. Their offers were I could go be a crew chief. So I asked questions about what that was, and that was an easy, understood that. And then they also gave me the offer of if a crew chief wasn't going to work out, you could go do EOD. I'm like, what in the heck is EOD? Well, if we drop a bomb over somewhere else in the country, you're going to be the guy that goes out and defuses it. And I'm like, what person freaking mind would go do that? Thanks, but no thanks. Hindsight 2020, right? If I had been given the right description of what EOD was, I would have been working with the brothers and sisters I wanted to join in the special forces. Me come back out and get my civil engineering degree with a background in explosives. I mean, there's all these things that I could have pursued if I just understood what it was I was looking at. So I didn't. I chose to be a crew chief. The brothers and sisters I met there have been awesome. 20 some years later, we still connect. But yeah, it was a choice, and I wasn't sure what I was doing at the time. And I think hindsight 2020. I'm married. I got 3 daughters. My life is better. I don't think any of that would have happened had either one of the first two, whether it be special forces or EOD, would probably change the trajectory of my life. So
continue walking us through that process to get into your unit as a crew chief. The basic, of course, and then what's next?
So then we go to tech school. Tech school for the B-52 bombers is down at Lackland Air Force Base, right where we had basic training. You just go across the fence to another field and start doing aircraft maintenance education. And I've heard a couple of people on your podcast and other podcasts I've listened to talk about how great the military is at training you. We're the most inefficient company in the world during peacetime. But by golly, you're trained to the nth degree when it comes to wartime. 4 years out of the service, I was a pretty mechanically inclined individual anyway. Like I understood how to read drawings and blueprints and build stuff. So reading a tech book and taking an airplane apart made sense to me. Step by step, I could go through and quickly ran through and was helping coach and teach some of our other students that just did not pick up on that type of stuff as well. It just intuitive. It was easy. It was something I liked doing. I like getting my hands dirty. I like trying to figure out like the impossible, like that one screw that nobody can get back behind the back corner of that fuel tank. Don't have a tool that works. What do? Well, you figure out a way to fabricate a tool, right? You make it work. You figure it out. And I love that about that job.
We've all experienced that screw that you can't get to. So love to hear the handiness in your experience.
Yeah. So I went through there, got out of Lackland, and they moved me to Barksdale Air Force Base in Shreveport, Louisiana, Bossier City. Walked in first day, again, greenish grass, didn't know what I was doing, hopped in the back of a bread truck, and they give you, of course, I think I might have been an E2 at the time by the time I finally got out of tech school. They give you the bottom of the barrel jobs, whatever it may be, emptying the urinal can or pulling urinal floors or like any of the dirty work that nobody else wants to do. And quickly, you got to show competence, right? You got to build character. You got to build trust with the teams. They know that you'll jump in and do it. They know that you're going to be held accountable, and you will hold yourself accountable.
Mm-hmm.
And as time goes on, they give you more and more responsibilities. So I only spent 4 years in, right? I took me several years after I got out of the service to proudly call myself a veteran because I got in during peacetime. I got out during peacetime. I never deployed. I look at individuals that I work with now that come in. I'm a huge recruiter of veterans. I want to be part of their transition period into the civil world. I want them to come work with us at Turner because I want to teach them that transition period. But I look at myself and what my history was. I'm like, well, I really never did anything. Hindsight 2020, I still signed my name in that dotted line. I still offered to go do it. Just God blessed me well enough that I didn't end up having to, where a lot of others have a different story. Their story turned out a lot differently than mine did.
Sure.
So 4 years of peacetime, no real deployments to speak of. A lot of our guys went to Diego Garcia over in the middle of the Indian Ocean. I went up to Spokane, Washington a few times for a couple of different exercises. I went a few places stateside for some exercises. Awesome thing about being a B-52 crew chief, or really a crew chief in the military for that matter, is we catch the airplanes when they land, we fix them, we get them ready to launch the next morning, and then while the airplanes are all flying, the pilots are out doing their thing, we go deep sea fishing, or we go bar, we go all the stuff you hear about the Air Force. Yeah, that was some of my experience. Now when the planes would land, hopefully they weren't broke, and hopefully we did our jobs before we launched them, the pre-maintenance, and they were easy to turn and get ready to go again. Or some nights there were 12-hour nights working on fixing the jet, getting it ready to go. It taught you a work ethic.
Sure. Through peacetime or not, I think it's a really fascinating role that you had, right? I think pretty much anyone would agree. Was there any project in particular that kind of stands out through your service?
So probably the one that stood out the most was the times that we would take a jet into the hangar to do their phase inspection. And a phase inspection was literally tearing that airplane apart from tip to tail. Just about every screw that you could take off came off. And we were checking for structural cracks. We were checking for all kinds of things to the minute detail. And learning that as a young man that had been out of school for 3 years at the time, had gone through a little bit of tech school, I had a sergeant there with me. But literally walking through the way that the military would do their instruction books, page by page, don't skip a line, and a 3-year out of tech school individual could go through and tear that plane apart and put it back together. The nth degree that they went through. So while I was in the service, I also got my industrial technology degree. I went back to school. I had an uncle tell me when I decided to join the service that you're never going to amount to anything. You fail out of university, you're never going to amount to anything. And quite frankly, it kind of ticked me off. Uncle's still around. He knows that I have that opinion. Him and I have since mended that relationship. It's turned out really, really good. But it was enough to motivate me and drive me to do something different. So while I was in the service, I went back to Southern Illinois Institute, which is on a lot of bases around the country. Southern Illinois offers different programs. I got my industrial technology degree, which is essentially a plant manager. So it was time quality motion studies, TQM, Six Sigma, a lot of things that we learn today in construction that we call lean construction is what I learned in my college degree. So, what is standard work? Hear a lot of conversations about standard work now. I bring that up now because of these tech books of going through and taking a plane apart and putting it back together. It was standard work. It was a fantastic, beautiful display of standardized work where you could hand anybody that walks in there this book and follow manual 1 through whatever, manual 99, and walk through step by step, and you can do this too.
Wow, really interesting. In your experience, did you because I'm sure this happens in an interval, I guess if you're lucky, unlucky, however you want to perceive it, with the planes in terms of their iterations of development, like did you experience changes in the aircraft that you were servicing?
Very, very little. So B-52 was built designed in the 40s, built in the 60s. The airframes we were working on were ones that were built in the 60s. So we were working on the Model H. And I don't remember how many years before I got there they had done the conversion to the Model H, and that was an upgrade on the AV equipment. But that was the airframe I worked on. There was very little changes while I was there. Pretty.
What, was there a protocol? Like, were you aware of protocol in the case of a change?
I was not. I'm sure there was, but I was not.
Yeah.
I mean, the only thing that we would do change, and the B-52 is known for carrying a lot of different types of payloads. So there were occasional structural changes on the wings, depending on what payload it was changing. Whether it was testing a test airframe that we would hang off the wing, whether it was testing a shuttle component we would hang off the wing, or if it was ordnance. But that was really the only thing that would change, is just that connection point.
Sure. Yeah, really interesting. I mean, I did. I guess I kind of framed it not in a holistic way, but I didn't mean to include like anything that's a part of the system of the aircraft. So yeah, thank you for pointing that out. You know, so I heard you mention you went back to school in your service. What kind of allowed you to realize, you know, what happened that made you realize, okay, actually I could leverage my time and finish my degree?
Asking questions, right?
Yes.
I talked about earlier, finding a coach, finding a mentor. I had some of the best leaders I have still today ever worked with. I worked for when I was in the military. Some of my tech sergeants and senior master sergeants would be happy to sit down and have a conversation with us about what your future looks like. They all knew I was not planning on staying in long term. That they knew my story from school. They knew kind of how I got there, what my history was. So when I started asking questions about going to school, they kind of directed me in that direction. Once I sat down and talked with the university and found out how I could do college classes, they would walk me through how to do that. If we were on deployment, the Southern Illinois University was so used to dealing with soldiers that they knew how to pause classes, pick you back up. So if something had hit the fan while I was there, they knew how to react and make it work. So the amount of hours that I needed to sleep when I was that age was not a lot. So I worked full time. I went to school full time, and I bartended part time. So I had a night shift job where I was at the bar working with a pretty rowdy group of people. I tell people all the time that bartending job probably taught me more in my education than my college degree or my military. And it was all about communicating with people.
Right.
It's building trust. It's learning how to read the person's face when they walk in the bar. Do they want to chit chat? Do they not want to? Are they happy and they just want to talk about happy things? Are they depressed and they just want somebody to complain? Like, you've got about 10 seconds when they sit their butt down on that chair to figure out what they want to make sure that your clientele stays happy. And I learned a lot through that. So it was it was a fun few years for me.
Yeah, that's a really interesting way to describe that experience. So, you know, going toward the end of your service, what were, you know, thoughts as your service was ending? It sounded like you had your decision made. Walk us through that process.
I had my decision made. I knew me and my fiance at the time, the same bride I talked about earlier that was, bless her heart, she stayed with me. We had been talking for a while about me getting out in September. We're going to get married in October. We're going to go back to Kentucky, start a family. We had our game plan of what was going on. I'd saved up enough college credits. Part of it was more me internally. Even if I decided to rejoin the military, I wanted to have my degree. I wanted to show that uncle that told me I wasn't going to amount to anything that I could do it. I knew I wanted to be in construction since I was a little kid. I knew I wanted to go get my civil engineering degree, which I got my civil engineering degree. I'm never going to use a stamp. I'll never get my master's. I'll never get my PE. But by golly, I got the degree I always went out and sought for. So for me, it was, I'm getting out. And then I got out in August with an early out, and I had enough time, vacation saved up. They let me go back so I could start school that year back as a freshman again. Actually, I think I started as a junior because the number of hours I had. And then 9/11 rolled around.
Right.
So I'm sitting in a class on September 11th, and I'm getting pinged from a couple of my Air Force buddies. A couple of them got stop loss. They were getting everybody to rally back to the base, bring their bags. And I'm telling them all good luck. And texting them, having a good time, and kind of almost laughing about the fact that I'm not there, but kind of wishing I was really there with them. I'd practiced for 4 years. Like I said, I was a little bit insecure about my veteran status. And then here go all my buddies go off to do it for real.
Yeah.
So part of me wanted to go back and go, what I'll say, do it for real. It wasn't until several years later that me and my mom and my wife were playing cards one night. We're talking about when I got out. I'm arguing that I got out, I don't know, sometime early September. And my mom was telling me that I got out September 10th, and I've got a plaque at my house of when I got out. I said, no, look, it was right here. It's like September 1st, Mom. Oh, crap. It was September 11th. It's the day the planes hit the building.
Wow.
It's the day my service record actually ended.
Wow. So to expand a little bit on that transition process, from military to civilian life, and then also rolling into the September 11th scenario, how was that like for you? And with hindsight knowledge you have today, is there anything you could have done that would have really like simplified that process or eased that process for you?
I don't reflect often on what I would have done different. Based off kind of how I started the conversation with some ups and downs and things I've gone through, if I went back and did anything different, it may have changed where I'm at today. Right? I'm very blessed. The good Lord above has blessed me where I am today. So I probably wouldn't have changed anything. Hindsight, could I have? I don't honestly know. Right? It was I was angry. Once I realized what was going on, I talked to a bunch of my buddies. They were all deploying over. They were all packing up. I wanted to be there, signing my name on the side of ordnance that we're going to be dropping. Right? I wanted to be right part of knowing that I was part of the action. I think more than anything, I spent some time just in a little bit of sorrow and anger that I wasn't there as part of it. But then fast forward 6 months, a year, and I reflect back on it, it's like it's probably the best thing that I'm not. Because again, I don't know that I would be where I'm sitting today had I been.
Sure.
At the time, I was thinking I might go re-enlist once I graduate. Like, I still want to go back and be part of this.
Sure. I should add, and then I'm going to segue into the next part, which is your education, right? I should have added kind of more so to perceive it as, or to also perceive it as advice, right, for others listening. If they're going through a similar scenario, if they went through that scenario where they finished service right around September 11th time, and if you have any advice for others to hear, it's always helpful to hear other veterans.
Yeah, I guess I'm trying to think of what that advice would be, right? And the reason I'm hesitant is you've got to have a clear mission. No matter where it is in life and what you're doing, you've got to have a clear mission. I knew mine was get married and finish this damn degree. I hated school. I was a poor student, very, very good communicator, what I think was a great builder. But to do what I wanted to do with my long-term future, I had to go finish this degree. And it was probably the hardest thing I ever did. But I had a clear mission.
That's great advice right there, if you ask me. So it's having that clear vision and a mission, clear mission, either or. That's great advice.
And I know others that would have gone back in, but they had a clear mission, right? I think that's the friends of mine that have gotten out of the service since I got out and have kind of floundered. And some of the vets that I have brought on board with us that we have not been able to retain have all lacked a clear sense of purpose when they got out. And I think the biggest thing for that transitioning vet is to find a clear sense of purpose. And if you don't have one, meet with other vets and try and figure it out.
That's great advice. So you start with, I guess really continue would be the right word. It seems like continue with your undergrad degree. I mean, was that weird at all though? Starting classes, coming after service, being older than probably classmates around you. What was that experience like?
Actually, it was great. It was really, I had a couple of, I'll say, younger students that I partnered up with, but for the most part, I was in classes with other individuals that had not similar backgrounds, but were non-traditional students. So I was able to pair up with a lot of people closer to my age than I thought, which their maturity helped me get through school. I don't know that I would not have reverted back to where I was had I gone back to school with just the same group of 19-year-old kids I started with. I needed a group of individuals that were focused on the same thing that I was. It was we all wanted to get through school together. We all studied together. We met together after classes. The group of us, there were 6 of us, and it was very similar to a small brotherhood in the military. Everywhere we went together.
That's
and if
great.
somebody didn't show up to class, or somebody didn't show up to study, or somebody didn't show up to whatever it was we were doing, you get 5 or 6 people calling you immediately and blowing up your phone. So you were held accountable by others.
Really interesting. So you mentioned a few times not being a great student. That's something that really resonates with me. Nonetheless, I went through my degrees, and in hindsight, all I can say to that is I'm just very stubborn. What was your kind of secret, ingredient to getting through school, even though you weren't a fan of that process?
Same thing I'll tell my kids today. If you don't know the answer, they'll figure out how to find it. And it was a lot of research. It was a lot of studying. But more than anything, let's face it, right? School does not teach you how to be a builder. School does not teach you how to be a structural engineer or mechanical engineer. They get you a degree, but what they teach you how to do is go solve the problem. Go figure it out, go solve the problem. They're going to give you a problem that is hard and complex, but they're going to give you all the tools you need to go figure it out. Go do the research and go figure it out. I was still a poor test taker. I'd say pretty good on all my homework. I was good at communicating with the teachers. They all knew that I was putting forth the effort. I was still a pretty poor test taker, just because my memory didn't work that way.
Yeah.
Now, give me the most complex problem in the world, and I'm going to go figure it out. I'll come back with the right answer. But stick me in a room and take away all of my materials and take away all my supplies and a blank piece of paper and a pencil and give me a similar problem, you're in trouble. I'm in trouble. You're not in trouble. Right? So it taught me how to solve problems. It taught me where to go to get answers. And that's a lot of effort to go figure out where to go get answers.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a great way to put it. So at what point could maybe, if it happened in your degree or if it was after your degree that I'll call it restarted or continued your career in construction, given, you did start in high school already?
So actually, while I was back the second time I moved in, my wife and I bought a house, which was a fixer-upper. The individuals we bought it from said they had it was newly remodeled when we looked at it. They had spray painted the countertop navy blue. They had put in new carpet in one room, newly remodeled.
That's spray painting the countertop. That's crazy. That's a new one for me.
It was perfect for me, right? It was a side job. I spent the next 3 years while I was finishing my degree, fixing that house. And then an individual named Nathan Churchill and Patrick McGee moved in 2 doors down from me. One of the guys worked for Messer Construction. I don't remember where Nathan was working at the time. But they decided to start their own company called Churchill and McGee. And Patrick was a fantastic businessman, very, very smart businessman. Nathan was a heavy machinery operator, really good on heavy equipment, big commercial construction. They're starting a business doing residential flipping. They didn't have a clue what they were doing. So somehow I met these 2 individuals. They hired me in as kind of like their third arm, and I helped them start their business. Fast forward 3 years later, they make me a really good offer when I'm graduating school. I turned it down because I think there's no way these 2 knuckleheads are ever going to make it. They'll split up next year. They're both going to go their own ways, and I'm going to be left holding the bag. So go away. I'll go somewhere else. Fast forward 20 years, they're one of the bigger construction companies down in Lexington. They're doing a fantastic job. And I still keep in touch with them. 2 great guys. But yeah, I don't know that I ever, even when I was in the military, I was tapped by our sergeants to go fix things around base. Or we had a gun club out in the back of the base that one of the sergeants ran and had a couple things messed up on one of the trap houses. And I went and go fix I've never gotten away from it. It's been in my blood since I was a kid. I loved doing it. Might have started with Legos when I was 7 years old, or Lincoln Logs. I don't really know when it started, but it's never. I look back and I don't know a time that I got interested or a time that I lost interest. My dream as a kid was being an iron worker. I wanted to be an iron worker and riding steel and being up in 10-story building, and never in my wildest dreams I think I'd be sitting where I'm at today, building some of the largest stuff in the world.
That's amazing. So it sounded like you did start with your neighbors, and then they gave you an offer and you decided to continue elsewhere. Walk us through what goes next. What happens next?
Yeah, so graduated school, graduate UK, and they made me a really good offer. A little bit of equity in the company. They were going to make me a partner. Uh, I also interviewed with at the time Turner Construction, and those were the only two interviews I made. So one, I knew I had a job, and two, I looked at ENR and I found the biggest construction company in the world. And who do I want to go work for? I want to go work for number one. How do you get an interview there? So I tracked them down, got an interview. Lo and behold, I got hired. Worked out a relocation deal as a new hire where they moved me from Lexington up to Cincinnati, Ohio. Back in 2004, I moved to Cincinnati, Ohio. And kind of the rest is history with like me going and joining that company. I learned a lot about leadership through the military. Kind of touched on a couple of things about building a foundation of trust and always trying to achieve results and pushing for results. I learned a lot more through my second time around in college. And a lot of that was just finding a group of peers that I enjoy working with, that I want to be around, that trust my character, I build a connection with, right? That's how you get that foundation of trust. And we had that group of guys that we were really, really close with. So now I'm stepping into a new world, right? I'm going to a big commercial construction company that I think I might stay for maybe 3 or 4 years. I'm not a corporate guy. There's no way I'll make it to corporate America. 20 years later, I'm still here I sit.
So you said something really interesting that I think is good for people to hear and encouraging. But what was the literal actions you took to get yourself an interview at Turner?
They would come down and do career fairs and job fairs.
Mm-hmm.
So I started seeking out the career fairs and job fairs. Found out that I missed them by a week. So I, again, didn't know what I didn't know, and I didn't ask the right teachers or didn't ask the right people. Goes back to seek the right solution.
Mm-hmm.
So then I reached out to the business unit up there in Cincinnati. They told me about another, one of the students was coming down to do an ASC, American Society of Civil Engineer presentation. They would fit me in for an interview afterwards. So it was a kind of a one-off. Went down to the first interview with two individuals that I worked with for the next 10 years. They interviewed me, got me in for the second round interviews. And at Turner, you do a second round of interview where you go in and you have panel interview discussions. And I remember going through those panel interview discussions and being asked questions about my co-ops, my internships, and thinking, I don't even know why I'm sitting here. I don't have a co-op. I don't have an internship. I don't even know what I'm here to talk about. So the general manager at the time asked me a question about give you an example of something that you had fixed on a project that you've done in the past. He was talking about a school project, and I misunderstood. So I started talking about hot patching some drywall on a job site that I've been working on, and the process of hot patching and the way that you do it, keeping the client happy, and how the client called Nathan later and asked me to come back and help finish that job. And I just started talking about client relationships in that interview, which is not at all what he was asking. And turned the interview to a conversation about taking care of your clients and building relationships that then completely flipped the interview script from what they were trying to ask to kind of the direction I wanted the interview to go, but I didn't know that's what I was doing. So my recommendation to anybody listening that's in that same situation is go in excited, listen to the questions, answer the questions, but try and start to control the narrative of the conversation. Don't let them start peppering you with behavioral questions that are difficult questions to answer. If you can see a gleam in their eye and something that you say that perks them up and gets them excited, drill in a little bit. Go in and ask a follow-up question yourself to get them to respond back. So then you can start to have a dialogue back and forth across the table. And then it's not them comparing you to your peers. It's them looking at this individual and saying, would I hire his character? Do I like his character? I don't care what you learned in school. I've already said I don't think that civil engineering degree teaches you to be a good builder. I don't think business school teaches you to be a good business person. I think it teaches you where to go find problems. I think the military teaches you how to go solve problems. The military teaches you leadership. I'm going to hire you for your character. I want you to be somebody that I want to work with. I want you to be somebody that I trust to work with. I want you to be somebody that I can help guide and direct in the direction you want to go. And I know that you've got the accountability to do it. I'll teach you to be a builder.
Yeah, well said. What I took away from when you were describing your interview process was you just directly speaking about your experiences, which I can imagine is anyways kind of the most valuable conversation a recruiter is going to have with you to understand what you've done and how you deal with yourself on job sites, exactly as you explained, caring for the client. So that's great advice and a great story as well. Going through your career, I'm really curious and interested in hearing um, kind of your experience in growing within the company and advice you'd give in that kind of a capacity.
So my first job was actually building a bus garage in Lebanon, Ohio, and we were value engineered off the job. I was value engineered off the job. We were building a couple of schools for that school district, and we were also going to build them a bus garage. And the client decided that they could do it cheaper themselves. They didn't need Turner to do it. So my first 3 weeks in the company, I was on a job site, and I was removed from the job site.
That's crazy.
I was put on a project called Stetson Square, and many people may know the story of Stetson Square. If you don't, research it, look it up. But it was a school job that collapsed back in 2004 during the construction phase. Turner was part of that at the time. I was part of what we call the rebuild crew.
Hmm.
The project manager on that became my ops manager later. So he would have morning meetings, and again, I was a builder, right? I didn't understand engineering. I didn't understand paperwork or RFIs or submittals. I understood how to get things put together in the field. I understood how to lead and direct and coach people. So they put me in charge of interior finishes and punch list on this $10 million job that had $100,000 LDs. And every morning we would meet at 6 o'clock in the morning, and our boss would tell us, guys, you can't spend that money today. Go figure out how to fix it. So we would do some crazy, crazy things. And we did. We hit the date. Client was extremely happy. Like, the whole thing turned out to be a really good story. But most importantly, I built a rapport with this project manager who, right after that job, I didn't even know what an OM was. Right after that job, became the operations manager for our local business unit.
Mm-hmm.
So right then, I talked about earlier, you got to have a cheerleader. Well, I couldn't have had a better cheerleader. I was a builder who was working and wanted to be a general superintendent. That's all I wanted to do with the company, was be a general superintendent, who now had the operations manager as a close ally and supporter.
Mm-hmm.
That was great. From there, I went to the office for a little bit in estimating, very short stint in estimating, and we won this wood frame building. Now, if you don't know anything about Turner, we don't do wood frame construction. Very, very seldom. So we had no wood frame experts in the company. And we won this 40,000 square foot apartment building and a 200,000 square foot apartment building and a 50,000 square foot steel office building up on top of the hill called Stetson Square. And Mark, the OM, came and got me and said, hey, Brad, can you go be the superintendent on this? Absolutely. He was specifically asking about the 40,000 square foot building. I said, sure, yeah, no big deal. I went out, got started. We were working with another concrete contractor that was doing the podium. We were just doing the overbuild. Nobody bought the layout of the building. And the foreman that we were working with from the framing crew wasn't real good with angles. I didn't know it wasn't Turner's superintendent responsibility to lay out the whole building anyway. So with a string line and a tape measure, being that foreman laid out a 40,000 square foot apartment building. I didn't know any better. I knew I had to get the job done. I knew what the mission was, and we went out and laid it out. 3 months later, we're installing walls, and I snapped one line on the wrong side of a freaking wall. Unfortunately, it was a 10-inch block. So the stair was 10 inches bigger than it was supposed to be, which means the prefabricated wood stairs didn't fit. So it cost us a little bit, but we got it done, right? So
that's great. I did notice what was interesting to hear, kind of again that mission mindset where going back from service to finishing school to now becoming a general super. So it seems like just hearing you talk about your life journey here, seeing that kind of core value consistently through your life story.
Right. It doesn't stop. Right. It still hasn't stopped. I've still got dreams, goals, missions.
Sure.
My wife laughs at me all the time because I'm always looking for like what is the if I don't have a sense of purpose, I'm not going to be successful, even if I stay in the current role I'm in.
Yeah.
I understand exactly what my mission is, and then I'll go execute. But I don't work well in the murky, at least in the mission side.
Yeah, well said. Well said. So what's the next kind of significant jump in your career?
Well, so let me finish the one on Stetson real quick, because when we finished that job was supposed to have a staff of 7. Now, again, I didn't know what I was doing, didn't understand it. And that's the first time I ever quit Turner. And I only did it for about 22 hours, 23 hours. My boss called me up and told me, you need to do this, you need to do that. And I got angry and told him what he needed to do. Hung up the phone, went to the local German restaurant and had a beverage and sucked in my sorrows, and went back the next morning, and that same boss called me again. Hey, Brad, where you at? I said, man, you know where I'm at. I'm not going to. I'm on the job site, but brother, you got to give me some help. So he did. He brought in a lot of good experienced hires. Back to the others listening, and I don't care where you're at in your career. I don't care what you're doing in your career. Don't wait to the point that you're ready to quit the best job you ever had. Don't wait to the point that you're ready to say something to your boss that you probably shouldn't say, or you're ready to chuck a phone across the room because you don't want to pick it back up again. Don't get to the point that you need help so bad that you make a fool of yourself before you ask for help. So I raised my hand, asked for help. They provided me the help that I needed. It was the end of the job turned out really, really well. But so that was a stepping stone into it. From there, I moved into cost. Now, mind you, I told you I was a really poor student. I don't do well sitting behind a computer and looking at Excel spreadsheets all day. And at the time, our cost department was kind of an internal auditing department. We had 2 different budget systems we were working in, and our cost job was to make sure that all the budgets and all the lines added up and matched up all the way down. It was mind-numbing. It was probably, in my career of what I've done, the job I hated the most. It was the least fun part of my entire career. It was also the part of my career that I think I learned the most, and has propelled me to where I'm at today. So I know a lot of people that get into costs, they don't want to do it, they complain about it. It was a horrible spot to be in at the time. I learned so much. FaceTime with the bosses was one piece, but just learning business and how the company business is what's got me sitting where I'm at today. Had I not gone and sat in that chair, I probably wouldn't be here.
Would you say it's also kind of the combination of the two? Meaning, if you were someone in cost your whole career but didn't spend time on a job site, vice versa, kind of a thing.
100%. It's about being well-rounded. It's about being able to lead and mentor and coach the individuals that are working for you in the direction you need to go. It's about knowing the right questions to ask. I believe a lot of times our superintendents that are builders in the field that can learn the business side have a better success rate than the business individuals that go and just dabble in the field a little bit. And it's probably because that's the way that I came up, right? It's where my background was. But I've been known, and people kind of joke about the fact that I can work from the front lines to the boardroom, right? I can go out and work with the concrete guys, and I can rake concrete, and I've done it. When I was working on Stetson Square, I got down in the ditch, and I was helping install bentonite waterproofing, which if you've never picked up a sheet of that stuff, it's not light, right? I used to love getting down and getting my hands dirty to learn the skills of what the individuals were doing. But then I would have to go have a meeting at the CEO's office for something different. So from there, Turner sent me back down to the University of Kentucky. The next stepping stone was I was in cost. I was our scheduling manager. Went back down to the University of Kentucky to run that role. It was a big job. It was a $600 million hospital job that UK was building a bed tower down there. And I was going to be the cost engineer. About a year into it, I keep going into my boss's office, the project manager, And I keep laying the schedule on the table and saying, Mark, man, we're behind schedule in this area. We're really having problems. And finally, he's, Brad, you brought me the problem. Go solve it. Hey, that's fine, man. Take the cost roll off my lap. Take the schedule roll off my lap. Give it to somebody else. Let me go be a superintendent. That's what I love doing. I was way in over my head. I was cocky. I was going to go figure it out. Cocky's wrong. I was arrogant. I went out and I said, yeah, sure, I'll go solve it. It was a lot of work. It was a lot of hours. We were way behind schedule on that. So I took over the podium. We had 3 young superintendents, one guy doing the mechanical floor, one guy doing the tower, one guy doing the podium. And our general superintendent at the time was really a lead estimator that had experience, had been in the industry. They brought him down as a general superintendent because he was an experienced individual, but he wasn't really a true, tried and true general superintendent. Still talk to the guy today. Love him to death. He's a great estimator. But we had 3 relatively young superintendents working for a general that wasn't exactly in his right spot. So it was clunky for a little bit. The 3 of us young men that worked together on that became great friends, still great friends today. All 3 of us recently became officers at Turner Construction. And it was the experience of us grinding through that job. And my daughter's going to school at University of Kentucky right now. I still walk through that job and get the shakes a little bit when I go by because it was a tough one.
Sure.
But we got it done.
Do you think it being in a hospital contributed to the difficulty of the project, or it was just circumstances?
Oh no, absolutely. It being a hospital definitely contributed to difficulties.
Yeah,
I love. Hospital building is the most difficult building I've done. I hear stadiums are difficult as well. I haven't been on a mega stadium. Data centers are not near as complicated. They're a lot bigger. They're a lot faster. They're a lot more attention to detail. But they're so repetitive where hospitals are, other than the patient bathrooms, there's not a whole lot of repetition in a hospital.
Right.
People will claim that there is, and there's getting to be more and more with BIM and prefab and kit of parts. But at the time, there wasn't much BIM. BIM wasn't really well known about. Lean construction was just really starting to kind of kick off where that you would sit down and have pull plans. So it was a lot of stick building everything. Every pipe was getting bent in place. Yeah, we did have one electrical contractor that did the mechanical floor and was really advanced in BIM and prefab. And they had a shop 2 miles down the road. They did not bend anything smaller than 3 inches on site. So 3 inches and above was bent off site. They bring in 20-ish trailer loads, 16-foot flatbed trailers, not loaded to the hill, with like just one layer of pipe on it a day. It'd hit the buck hoist, it'd go at the buck hoist, it'd go right in the air.
Wow.
That was really my education, what the power of BIM could do. So I started watching them do that and bring in all this pipe and install it the way they're doing. I got really interested in, this lean construction thing and Six Sigma and my industrial technology degree. All this makes a lot of sense. I should look into it. Following up on that, I rolled into a regional lean manager for the company, kind of running Southern Ohio, part of Kentucky, and traveling around and seeing some of the greatest construction jobs in the world and learning about what lean construction was doing. So
yeah, that's awesome. Were you, I mean, it sounds like the answer is yes to this. Were you traveling throughout all these projects?
So I was really not traveling that much for any of them. The University of Kentucky job, again, I had a clear mission, right? My kids were my clear mission. And anybody that knows me, if you have anybody pile in, I talk a lot about family values, how important family is to me. So I get up in the morning at 4 o'clock. I would go meet I'd leave the house at about 4. I'd go meet my coworker that would drive, take the company car to his house. We'd switch seats. He'd hop in the driver's seat. I'd fire up my computer and start working on my cost job. We'd get down to the job site. I'd go out and work as a superintendent. At 3:30 every afternoon, no matter what was going on, we were walking to the car. And at 3:45, we were pulling out of the job site. And I worked it out with my bosses. I worked it out with everybody there. All the foremen knew that come 3:45, Brad wasn't going to be here. But I'd be in my seat 6 o'clock every morning. But I've got to get home and get the kids from daycare. So I set a standard of doing that. It was an hour and a half one-way drive from Cincinnati down to Lexington. It wasn't really that big of an ordeal. Dale would drive down, Dale would drive back. I could keep up with my paperwork on the way and play superintendent when I was down there. So it worked out really, really well. But again, I had to set the clear sense of purpose. Had I wavered in that at all and not had those hard conversations with my bosses, it would have probably made things a lot worse at the job site and a lot worse at home.
Sure. Yeah, that's really awesome. And, I guess that's why I thought you were maybe traveling. So it's great to hear that you were able to create that circumstance. So this hospital project finishes. First of all, what's your feeling like?
So what my role was the podium, which is, it's all the ancillary spaces, it's the MRI spaces, it's all the complicated surgical suites. And then it was also the big finished lobby. So all the complicated surgical suites, all that stuff was kind of easy. It was the big finished lobby that we just didn't think was going to get done. It was the amphitheater, the auditorium, all the audio visuals, this really thick set tile. And I remember one of my executives came out and was standing next to me overlooking the lobby from the second story looking down and tell me I don't have a plan. Brad, you're never going to get done on time. You don't have a plan, which, again, if you haven't picked up on anything yet, I take things like that pretty freaking offensive.
Yeah.
And I politely told him, and I was polite this time, to get out of my job site, go back to your office, come back and see me on Monday. I promise I have a plan. What he didn't know is that we had thick set stone down, so it's really, really thick granite. There are these massive sheets of it, and you can't drive equipment on top of it. So we had an engineered system of a lot of styrofoam and a 3/4 piece of plywood over top of all this thick set, so we could run equipment over it. So what we had planned that weekend, this was on a Friday, we had already planned that weekend a bunch of our own internal laborers coming in and 3 semi-trucks showing up to load all that temporary plywood and temporary protection up. So I knew when he came in Monday morning, the place was going to be spit shine and look crystal clear like a brand new space. So I didn't say a thing to him. I just let him believe we didn't have a plan, and he left, and I got phone calls. Monday morning, he called me and wanted me to meet back at the same spot. He said, "Well, why didn't you tell me?" I said, "You told me I didn't have a plan. It just don't come at me like that. Ask me what my plan is, and I'll tell you. But don't tell me I don't know what I'm doing, because it upset me. So I'll let you stew over it over the weekend, but it's fine. No big deal."
That's great.
It was one of those grand opening. Don't look behind the curtains. Right? It's kind of the Wizard of Oz thing. Don't go look for the man behind the curtain, because we had unfinished parts and pieces. Client was thrilled. A lot of changes along the way. Hardest thing with hospitals is they don't choose the equipment until you're well into construction. Wow. So usually choose the equipment, you've got to go back and change wiring, you got to change outlets, you got to go change mechanical systems, which means you got to tear back in the drywall. And the designers and the owner that's making the decision has no idea what those impacts are, because we do a very poor job of communicating to them. If they don't make that decision this week, but they make it next week, here's the $1 million impact, versus if you make it 3 days earlier, here's what we could save, or whatever that may be. We don't do a good job of clearly communicating what we need to our clients.
So after this, how does this hospital project finish?
Finished well. It finished very well. It was, we had, again, ups and downs, right? We had some water damage. We had some frozen pipe. We had some things that happened along the way. You got to learn to react. You got to learn to react calmly. But the ultimate job, we did 2 finished floors. We did the podium space that I was in, mechanical floors. 11 years later, we're still finishing floors in that building, because the client's been turning them over 1 floor at a time. So we've still got an individual that was my co-op down there then, is now the project manager on that project. He's been on that campus all 11 years. Client loves him. So
that's
it's been a repeat client.
Yeah, wow. So when does kind of the growth of special projects happen in your career, if that's the next kind of stepping stone?
Well, the next stepping stone is Children's Hospital, and I'll be quick on that one. I went back to Cincinnati after University of Kentucky, started working for Cincinnati Children's, formed a great relationship with them. They appreciated my honesty and my direct feedback, and they continued to just give us work. As one of the first clients in that office that just would call us up and say, I've got this $30 million job, go do it. We need you guys to go do it. We weren't bidding for work. They had faith in us. We provided reliable results. So because of that relationship that we had built there and learning the business side of getting new work and going in and interviewing, Turner asked me to move to Columbus, Ohio, which is where I'm sitting today, take over special projects. We had an individual that was retiring to go take care of her husband, and she had big shoes to fill. She had done a great job with a lot of great clients, and they were looking for somebody to step in and be able to maintain the relationship with her clients and maintain the team that she had built, because she had a fantastic team there. What I didn't realize when I accepted the job was a lot of that team was individuals I'd started with. Right? They were peers of mine when we started. So I'm going to go in, and this is one of the first times where I'm truly taking a real leadership role, where I'm leading direct reports that I view as peers. And quite honestly, they're better builders than I. I'm good at using my hands and putting the nuts and bolts together. They were much better at knowing how to be a general contractor and take bids and review bids and put together proposals to clients and all the things we needed to do to be good at Turner. Those guys knew how to do it, and I was learning. So it hit me. It hit my humility. It hit my, how do I go in and build trust? How do I make sure that they trust my character? Like all the things that I focus on when I talk about building trust. It resonated with me. I became the guy that was more, my character came in question, because anytime that anybody from, I'll say, the big T corner office would push back on them, it was my job to go fight it. So they would coach me up on whatever the problems were, and they knew how to get at me. Like somebody's questioning whatever it is we're doing or whatever it may be. They knew how to poke me in the rib. And I would stand up and I'd storm right down to the corner office and say, we're not doing that because here's why. And they knew how to goat me into doing those types of things. But it developed that trust. And out of that trust, we were able to support each other. They would provide clarity on exactly what it was we needed. And out of that, we produced results. So from that, it went from, we were chasing little bitty jobs. This was about 2015. I think our biggest job was a fire station, which is probably still one of the hardest jobs I ever did in my career. And it was because I was on the public stage and I was weekly getting berated by the city council. My name was in the newspaper every day. I was getting phone calls. It was a very tough personal time for me because I've got very high integrity. Don't ask me what you don't want to know, because I'll tell you. And they would ask me questions they didn't want to know the answer to, and I would tell them, and then it would show up in the paper as I was lying to them about it. So it was very tough for me to navigate through those waters.
Right.
Over the next several years, through a lot of things, one of those two guys that were teaching me how to be a better GC. We landed some really big work in the city that then our small projects division was supporting. All those things combined is what helped us grow the business from one to the other. Secondarily, we decided we wanted to get into self-perform. Our bosses kept trying to get us into concrete. We kept pushing back that concrete in Columbus is pretty much a non-union world. We're not going to be successful. We've got union carpenters and laborers, but we'll dabble our toe in drywall. And everybody told us you're not going to be successful in drywall. We took on our first couple of $100,000 jobs. Then we did a job for a client that we walked in and basically told them, hey, we can't do your job unless we self-perform it. The only way we can do your job is we have to self-perform it. And we it was a very tight critical path schedule. We wanted to drive the critical path scope of work, which was the drywall on that job. The client accepted us, allowed us to do it. It was a $5 million package. We did not have the resources or the staff to do that. So we decided with the client to split the package. We gave half to one of the local subcontractors here in town, half to our self-perform guys, and we switched every other floor as we ran up through. And we found out while we were doing it, we were actually pretty damn good at drywall. Right? Foremen were good. Our layout guys were good. We were having less change orders and less questions from our guys than we were the trade partner. And we realized we might actually be able to do this. So fast forward, what is it now, 9 years later? 9 years later, we're running about 300 carpenters in town. Not by any stretch of imagination because of me. I helped sell the first one, but the guy that's running our self-perform has done a great job of maintaining what we did there. And it's turned into a great business for us.
That's a really awesome way to hear how you created that self-perform division, essentially like on a job site, literally comparing internal team, external team, and growing from there. That's really cool. I'm curious to hear you expand on, you mentioned kind of shifting your role from, site teams, I'll call it, to leadership.
Yep.
What are some, I don't know, characteristics or kind of hindsight advice or circumstances that helped you grow in that capacity?
But I've mentioned a couple of things so far, right? I talked about, I think, and people would disagree with me because I'm kind of over the top sometimes and open. I'm pretty humble about where I came from. Mm-hmm. My dream as a kid was to be an iron worker. I'm not a good college student. I know what happened to me there, but by the grace of God, I wouldn't be sitting where I'm at today. I've been where I am because I've been supported by great people. It's so humility, building trust. I will tell you, my biggest is leaders create the culture that drives behaviors that produces results. Right? We all want results in our life. We're all chasing that mission driven, whatever that result is. There's behaviors that you have to put in place to make those results happen. I don't care what it is. It's a behavior that you need to put in place. If you want to lose weight, you got to start eating better. If you want to be a better builder, you got to get out in the field and get your boots muddy and learn about building. If you want to be better at business, you got to get in the books and understand the numbers. You got to have the behaviors to produce the results that we're looking for. But it's easy on a one-on-one person. You can tell yourself to have the discipline to get up in the morning and go do it. Multiply that by 10 people, it's a little bit tougher to tell them you got to go do it. Multiply that by 100 people, it's even harder to get everybody to do it. So you got to build a culture where people want to go do it, right? Where you start focusing on what does that culture look like? Why do they want to get up in the morning and show up at 6:30 in the morning to be at Stretch and Flex and be there when the crews are there talking about what's going to go up safety? But we've had a couple of major incidents on our job sites. If you can go talk about the impact of what they could have had if they had been there that morning versus what the impact is on the back end of the results that they're looking for, it starts to create that culture. When you walk into a safety incident where somebody had an incident and they're all pointing the finger back at the guy who had the incident, is probably one of the things that drives me the most crazy because it was an event that happened because of our response to what we did. We didn't put in place the right safety measures. We didn't put in place the right saw courses. We didn't have the right PTP. The individual wasn't even trained to use a saw. Foreman, you walked by, you saw him using a saw, you knew he wasn't trained. So how about everybody else stop in the room? I want everybody to stop and reflect for a minute. What did you do? What was your impact to make that individual have the accident? All right, let's start there. I want to go around the room and hear from everybody here, what should you have done different? Stop talking about the individual it happened to. So that was one of the early incident on the data center job I got into. But all that goes back to leadership, right? Leaders create that culture of pointing inwardly first, self-reflecting on what you did, that culture of grit, that culture of studying and learning to drive the behaviors to produce the results.
Really cool to hear you say that. It reminds me a lot of one of my favorite books. I don't know if you're familiar with it, called Extreme Ownership, written by. Yeah, okay, awesome. So you know it. So that really resonates with me. I like that book a lot. I like to follow it as well. So really awesome advice in terms of leadership.
If you like that, Tim Kite, Focus 3. Tim, bless his heart, passed away probably about a year ago now. But he does a Focus 3 leadership podcast where he talks about E plus R equals O. You've got events in your life. We've all got outcomes we're looking for. It could be, I had a stroke at a younger age. It's when I was, maybe about 8 years ago now. The outcome I wanted was I wanted to live longer, right? So the event was I had a stroke. The outcome was I wanted to live longer. How's my response? My response is going to be I'm going to start eating healthier. I'm going to start working out. I'm going to start doing these things. So he focuses on a lot of these different things. He focuses his whole training on that event. Pause, think about what your response is. Like if you're interested in the stuff that Jet.Build talks about in that book, Tim's got some great coaching material.
Awesome. Definitely going to add that to my list. I'll also add that in the show notes for anyone listening who's interested. You got me thinking a little bit kind of off topic from, trajectory of your life, but asking for your experience and purview. You got me thinking on the, growth of the special projects team going internal with, your in-house, um, in-house teams for sheetrock and such. Did you ever face the issues that we all see all over articles, news, etc., with difficulty in hiring workforce, right? Hiring labor force.
Absolutely.
Mm.
Absolutely. And back in 2015, we launched this and started up. It was not that impactful, if you will.
I see.
Right? There was a lot of workforce out there. You were able to hire and fire and pick what you wanted. So we were working through the union. The union steward knew our general superintendent very, very well. They would only send us the best because they knew that if they'd send us anything different, they'd be back on the bench the next day. So we had good workforce then. Today it's a lot different. Today the industry's growing. I'll back up and I'll get back to the industry growing. From after all that SPD stuff, we had a tough job on a data center, which is how I got into the data center program I'm in now. And it was the culture was going backwards. The individual that was running the job was trying to run two different positions in the company at the same time. The client was disheveled, didn't have clear leadership. The trade partners were unhappy with us. So we really had this backwards culture. So I went out to dinner with the head of the data center group and the client, and he looked me square in the eye and says, "What's your experience with data centers?" I have zero experience with data centers, nothing at all. But if you're asking me to go out and build a data center and commission one, you got the wrong guy. If you're asking me to go out and build a team and lead a team and change the culture and get you the results of this data center on time, then I'm in the right spot. It was an awesome conversation. 7 years later, that was back in 2018. So 6 years later, now running the program, we're doing about $2.5 billion a year. It's a lot of fun. But I say all that to go back to your question about hiring, right? Yeah. We're at a spot right now with the data center market as a whole. You can look at any type of projection that's coming is about to explode more than it already has. The workforce is slimmer than it's ever been. We've got less trained foremen than we've ever had.
Right.
People are bringing individuals off the street, and as long as they can pass a paper test, they're calling them a foreman. We're not getting them the leadership training we need to give them. We're not coaching them and educating them the way we need to coach them, and yet we're expecting them to step into these leadership roles. So my mission recently has turned to how do we train, at least on our little job site, the small impact we have, how do we coach training the soft skills? How do we focus on the leadership skills to get these new and upcoming foremen and journeymen to go out and be leaders on the job site with the people?
Yeah.
How do we do the same thing with our own salary staff? Right, we're bringing in salary staff that's not experienced the way that I was experienced before I got put in a leadership role. We're leaning in. We have to lean in. But how do we support them and teach them and coach them along the way? And it's not as easy as saying, go read this book. Right? It's not as easy as saying, I've got online website training, go figure it out. We've got to be very, very intentional about how we do it. And I think that's going to be one of our next big challenges in the industry.
Yeah.
Is coaching and training the next group of leaders.
Yeah, I'd agree. And that's exactly what I was asking. I was curious what, you were seeing and experiencing. So interesting to see how that will kind of unfold. So it sounds like you went from the special projects division to where you're at now, data centers.
I had been running small jobs. I had been running the biggest job I'd ever been on was a superintendent on that $600 million hospital job. Going into a $1 billion program was something different, right? My boss that brought me in kept saying, "Brad, I need you there focused on the people." And I didn't understand what that meant, right? I've got X, Y, and Z. That's going to be the project exec. They're going to deal with the project and the operations. I want you to go deal with the client and the people. And I'm like, but guys, I'm a builder. I want to be in the building. I want to be out in the field, get my boots muddy. When I first got there, I had to do that. Right, I talked about it being a little bit of a tough job. The culture was tough. I had to get in and solve the client's problems, or the client would bring us a problem. I had to drop everything and go make sure it was solved. And my boss was on site one day and he asked me about it. He said, Brad, he said, I thought I told you to stay out of the build. I need you to focus on the people. I said, Ben, I'm focused on what the client needs me focused on right now. I said, give me 6 months and you and I can have a conversation about your idea of people and your idea of, but right now I've got to focus on what the client needs.
Mm.
And built a rapport with that client where they knew if they came to us and they asked for something, we were going to jump through hoops to try and solve the problem. Whether it was our issue or not, we're going to go solve the problem. Then we're going to come back and have a conversation, right? If it wasn't supposed to be ours, we'll figure that out. But I couldn't leave it hanging because we were losing and we were eroding our trust with that group to the point that we were battling each other in every meeting versus focused on solutions. So it took a while. It took a year and a half to turn the whole ship back around to where we needed to be. But then it became a very elite, high-performing team.
Mm. And was there any, for you personally, was there any kind of, I'll call it a transition, right? Because I mean, you're really transitioning to a different type of build, different teams, et cetera. Like, what was that period like for you personally to then start implementing, new culture or, new process, protocols, et cetera, for your teams?
A lot of reading. Right? It was a lot of. I go back and talk about I started out, my school years were not great. I was not a great studier. I was a great solver of problems, but studying is what I struggled with. Which later in life I figured out I don't like deep work. If you start reading books on deep work and like getting in your own headspace and sitting in a quiet area and reflecting and solving problems, I'm not good at deep work. That was a tough period of figuring out because I had to do deep work. Mm-hmm. I had to read the books. I had to study. I had to learn. I had to educate myself. How am I going to go out and grow this group and change from what got you here is not going to get you there. It was a deep time of reflection. Read a lot of books. Actually, I think thinking back on it now might have been one of the happiest times of my career because I was constantly learning every day. I enjoyed it. At the time, it feels like a grind and you don't think about it. But now as I'm sitting here talking to you, it's like, I need to go pick up another new book.
Yeah, that's great. What also comes to mind, I'm curious what your kind of perspective and what you're seeing here is powering data centers, right? Like the literal energy, electricity. Are you seeing any of these? I'm fascinated by them, like the micro nuclear plants.
Not yet. Not yet. I don't know enough to talk much about them other than if you listen to people that know what they're talking about, the red tape around getting them up and running is going to take time to get figured out. Everything I'm involved with right now is all typical generation. There's a little bit of natural gas, but for the most part, it's still coming off of regular electrical energy plants.
Has that been, powering the data centers? Has that been kind of, I don't know, uniquely significant portion of the job, different from, for example, hospitals or other, I'll call it regular projects, non-data center projects?
Not so much because we got subject matter experts that know what they're doing, right? You divide everybody up in the right teams and you don't focus on what their mission is, and you make sure that you back up in the back end and you tie all the missions together. It's not. I don't find building a data center much different than building anything else we build.
Cool.
And it's more. I keep going back. It's more about leadership. It's more about people. It's more about communication. If we can get those parts right, I can build you a doghouse. I can build you a stadium. I can build you a data center. Right. If you mess up on any one of those, if you don't treat the people right, you don't give them the respect they deserve, you're not going to get to work for some site. You don't communicate with them, they're going to build the wrong thing. If you go back to just those basics, we can do anything.
Sure. Yeah. No, I mean, I'm glad to hear that it's not, some, I don't know, overarching issue of the project. It just feels like doom and gloom out there with energy as it relates to powering data centers and such. So great. I mean, it's great to hear that feedback.
It's definitely the future, right? It's where we're all going. We just got to figure out how to get there.
Yeah. Awesome. So before closing out the civilian profession portion of the show, I want to touch on, in particular, translatable skills, military to profession. I know you touched on a few, as we were talking through your story, but I want to kind of specifically highlight them right now?
And I'm going to use this segment to talk a little bit about just our recruiting efforts that we're doing right now. I'm adamant about trying to get more vets in our program. Anybody that's listening that's interested, reach out to me, make a contact, go online to our website, put in an application. We're very focused on recruitment, reception, recognition, retention, and retirement. Like we want to take you all the way from recruitment through retirement in your industry. We're spending a lot of time trying to focus on the recruiting piece. I'm spending a lot of time trying to put together translatable skills between what your MOS was versus what you'd be doing in the civilian sector and how do they interact, right? Just because you're an electrician on an airplane doesn't mean that you can be an electrician in the construction field, but you know a hell of a lot more than most anybody else coming in as a new person, right? Just because you can read a single line on a set of drawings for an airplane, does that mean that you can go in and wire a building? No, but it probably means that you can understand the single line pretty quick. So there's translatable skills that the novice eye is not going to pick up. And I'll spend a lot of time trying to help figure out how do we get there. I will tell you, I've hired recently 3 individuals that one was a first shirt, never been in construction in his life, didn't even think about construction when he was transitioning out that I was introduced to. But I knew that he was a first sergeant. I knew what that role was. I knew that he had the character to lead people out in the field. I put him in charge of one of our general requirements crews, so he's running 40 individuals out in the field. Of course, he needs to be doing, he needs to shut his mouth, listen, go back and get answers, and learn along the way, and step up and continue to learn and evolve. He's done a fantastic job. He's rolling into more of a superintendent position. He's learning how to be a builder. So I mentioned it earlier, and it's the hiring for character, training for skill. I want to see the character of the people, hear the character of the people. I'll figure out where you fit in the program to get you the skill that you need. On these mega jobs, a lot of our clients are ex-Navy nuke guys, right? The attention to detail that you learn being a nuke engineer and then coming into construction and you're looking at a data center and going through the commissioning process and you start looking at bolts and the way they got to be torqued and the torque marks. And those individuals know how to read a book step by step. And they understand that if they skip a step, they're dead, right? So we put them in a commissioning position or a QA/QC position, and they know when to raise their hand and stop the boat. And they're not going to take somebody else saying, oh, no, it's no big deal. Just go and push forward. They're not going to take it. They're going to wait until their supervisor tells them, okay, this is one we can let go. So there's many, many skills in the service that when you come out that fit great into the construction role. I'm a huge believer that I can do a lot more with an individual coming out of the service than I can most others because they've got the grit, they've got the leadership skills, they know how to go out and get things done, they know how to make a phone call and don't hide behind emails. Right? Most of the time they're personable. Most of the time they sign that dotted line because they had something going on in their life at the time. Very few of us decided to sign up just because we thought it was going to be fun. Like we all had something going on that we were trying to get through. So most of them have had hurdles in their lives they got to get through. So it's on the back end, I see it's produced much better individuals. So I'm an adamant believer that if more vets I can get in the industry, the better off we're going to be.
That's a really awesome answer. I really appreciate how you're essentially live translating MOS to, field to construction industry. That's really cool. I also appreciate you mentioning the principles behind what you learn in military that of course translate, whether it's grit, whether it's leadership, and the other things that you mentioned. Also, of course, really appreciate your hiring efforts for veterans and definitely going to have all of your information linked in the show notes. So absolutely encourage, as you did, any vets who are interested to reach out and get involved in the Turner ecosystem, right? Hiring process.
I'll shoot you one more link. There's a group out there called Offline, which is an online group for veterans to apply to. That we're in the process of signing a contract with now, but it automatically takes whatever your job was in the military, translates it into civilian. They upload all of our resume or all of our job applications, our job descriptions, and they marry the two. And they said, hey, these 15 people in our program may be a fit for you. So if your listeners aren't familiar with it, get out there and get your resumes in Offline.
Shout out to Offline. That's also a veteran founded company, correct?
It is. Yep.
Yeah, that's awesome. It's a great team there. I spoke with Jeff, who I believe is the founder, the founder leadership role. Hope to get him on the show someday soon as well to talk about what he's doing for vets. So awesome to hear that organic connection point.
Cool.
So before we close out, I guess the professional side, civilian professional side, I'd like to kind of clarify there. Anything I missed? Anything you want to add?
I don't think so. It's my first podcast I've been on. I appreciate you taking it easy on me.
Not at all. It's been fascinating. I've got our last two questions before we finish. One, we'll start with wellness practice. What does that look like for you?
Before we got on the call, I was talking about last couple of years have been a little rough with me and my wellness practice. It's more just deep breath work, a little bit of yoga, a little bit of stretching. It's not what it used to be. 3 years ago, I was an avid obstacle course racer. So if anybody checks out my LinkedIn post, I still haven't changed it because I've got one of the water slides I was going down. It's actually the slide I hurt my back on. But I'm still an adrenaline junkie. Still like to go out and hike. I like to go out and do extreme cold weather camp trips. I just like going out, and if somebody says it's going to be tough and you're not going to enjoy it, I want to go see if I will. So, nothing's changed much in the years.
I love that. Listen, I'm a huge proponent of yoga and breath work. I practice that every day, and it's hugely helped my post-military back injuries. So I hope you'll have that same kind of outcome. Just gotta stick with it. It's not necessarily easy and fun all the time, but there is a hope, right? So long as you're consistent.
Awesome. Yeah.
So last question, we're going to do any book or books you'd like to recommend to the audience.
So you mentioned Jocko earlier, right? And team, that's one. I'd tell you that the one I liked better was Dichotomy Leadership. So it's his second book. That's the follow-up to the first one. You got to read the first one to really appreciate the learnings and lessons in the second one. And then the third one, Leadership Strategies and Tactics, I carry in my book bag. It's like a field manual for me. Like I'll refer back to occasionally when something's going wrong. Like, what would Jocko have done? Because it's in like little sections, and the table of contents kind of lists out, hey, you got fired today. What are you going to do? Like, you got an employee that's a pain in the butt. What are you going to do? So it gives you a way to go back and kind of use it as a field manual. The other one that is still all the books that I'm really big and passionate about are mostly all military books. And I'll give you two more just because I'll do one non-military. Team of Teams, General McChrystal's out there, Team of Teams. The size of the projects that I operate and the size of the teams I've got, I've had to really dig into that one and study that when I talked about deep work. That's one that I actually studied and highlighted, wrote notes, and I probably read it 5 times. Like, how am I going to implement what he was doing? And then the last one is Elliot Goldratt's The Goal. If you're familiar with lean construction or like lean construction at all and flow in a job, it was talking about some Boy Scouts going out on a camping trip and hiking. But it starts talking about flow in a construction process. If you want to, it's kind of construction related, it's kind of not, but it's just really talking about the manufacturing process and getting flow and where do you want to have your slowest part. You put it in the middle of the line, you put it at the end of the line, how you do it. So if you like the idea of construction flow, it's a good book. Awesome.
Team of Teams is also one of my favorite books. So awesome to align on two of my favorites. Brad, really appreciate you taking time to share a story, an amazing life story. I'm really excited for our listeners to hear it, be inspired by it, and for veterans to really follow your path and take your lead in terms of what you're doing for hiring veterans in the construction space. So thanks so much for joining us today.
Adam, appreciate it, man. Thanks a lot. Appreciate the invite.
Absolutely. All right, everyone. We'll see you real soon. Thank you to our channel sponsors, Jet.Build. If you're looking for ways to better manage your real estate development and construction projects, look no further. Jet is the command center software for end-to-end real estate development and construction management. That's www.jet.build.